That's the only one we do. There it is there. Now the check. Church of Christ page. There it is there. All right. All right, we are live with our Wednesday night Bible class. We are fixing to start in just a minute. I'm going to give everybody just another minute or two to get in here and get everything situated. We still got a minute or two till. I appreciate everyone being here. Tonight we are in Exodus chapter 6. Exodus chapter 6 is where we're going to begin in just a minute. All right, we are where we need to be, and it is 7 o'clock. So we're going to go ahead and get started tonight. Again, appreciate everyone being here and appreciate you logging in to join us. As we said, we're going to study Exodus chapter 6 tonight. That is our next chapter in this book. So we're going to go ahead and share our screen and be ready to go in just one more second. All right, you remember we got last week in Exodus chapter 5 is where we left off, and that was talking about Moses and his first appearing to Pharaoh and about what Pharaoh had told him and his request to Pharaoh to let the people go. And remember, Pharaoh said no. And then after Pharaoh said no, Moses went back to the people. And when he went back to the people, they found out that Pharaoh had increased the workload upon the Israelites. And because of the increased workload, they come after Moses, and they had a fit on Moses and basically told him that all you're here to do is try to kill us. You're trying to ruin us, that you've brought this heavy load upon us. And chapter 5 ends with Moses questioning God, saying, God, why did you send me here? If you're not going to set these people free, why am I here? Why did you let me come? Why did you send me? And what we're going to see tonight is that God is going to respond to Moses. We said last week, God didn't respond to Moses last week, but God is going to respond to Moses tonight, and God is going to introduce a new variable into this great story of the Exodus. And so we'll begin in verse 1 of chapter 6. It says, but the Lord said to Moses, now you shall see what I will do to Pharaoh. For with a strong hand he will send them out, and with a strong hand he will drive them out of his land. God spoke to Moses and said, I am the Lord. I appeared to Abraham, to Isaac, to Jacob as God Almighty. But my name, the Lord, I did not make myself known to them. I also established my covenant with them to give them the land of Canaan, the land in which they lived as sojourners. Moreover, I have heard the groaning of the people of Israel, whom the Egyptians hold as slaves, and I have remembered my covenant. Say therefore to the people of Israel, I am the Lord, and I will bring you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians, and I will deliver you from slavery to them, and I will redeem you with an outstretched arm, with great acts of judgment. I will take you to be my people, and I will be your God, and you shall know that I am the Lord your God, who has brought you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians. I will bring you into the land I swore to give to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. I will give it to you for possession. I am the Lord. Moses spoke thus to the people of Israel, but they did not listen to Moses because of their broken spirits and harsh slavery. All right, let's go back to verse 1. Johnny, do you have a question or did you hit a button? All right, we're going to go on. All right, verse 1. God spoke to Moses. God has come to Moses. This comes right after chapter 5 when Moses was questioning God. And God tells Moses, now you're going to see. Now the stage is set, is basically what God is telling Moses. Remember, God already told Moses when he sent him in chapter 4 and chapter 5 that when you go to Pharaoh, Pharaoh will not listen to you. Pharaoh will not obey my voice, but I'm going to teach him. Remember, he told him that I'm going to teach him a lesson with a strong hand. Very interesting. God says he has taught Pharaoh. He was going to teach Pharaoh a lesson with a strong hand. And then he says now that Pharaoh is going to act with a strong hand. The same strong hand that God acts, the same words are used to describe God's act of sending the 10 plagues, of sending all this upon Pharaoh to teach Pharaoh and the Israelites and the Egyptians who he is. With that same force is how Pharaoh is going to send the people out. He says, in the same manner that I have sent this lesson to Pharaoh, in the same way, he will drive you out of this land. He will push you out. And then he again tells Moses, he says, I am the Lord. And the idea of the Lord there, I am Yahweh. I am I am that I am, that name and the significance of that name. And in verse 3, he says, I have appeared to Abraham, to Isaac, to Jacob as God Almighty, as El Shaddai. But he says, but now my name, the Lord, I did not make myself known to them. What this is this is a reference to God using his name and various functions of his names to teach certain people certain lessons. When we look at the book of Genesis, from its recordings, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob refer to God by the name Yahweh. So when God says they didn't know me by that name, what does he mean? He doesn't mean if they didn't know that name, but they didn't know and understand the power of that name. They knew God more as El Shaddai, the Almighty One, the one who has all the power, the one who is able to fulfill his promises. Now God says, and I'm going to make myself, my name, I am that I am, known to these people. I'm going to make my name known to the Egyptians. Then the Israelites are going to know who God is. You see, what God is saying is at the end of this, there will be no question of who has brought this about. There's no question of, was this just a natural disaster or was something at play here? Was he trying to send a message? God says, I'm going to show you very clearly that this line, what's going to happen is going to show you who I truly am. And he knows verse 4, God says, I also established my covenant with them to give them the land of Canaan. God says he has established it. Notice, he says it's already done. God has established, he's made it. He has concreted it in the past that he would give them the land of Canaan. He'll give them the land in which they were sojourners. And we talked about that in the book of Genesis, how all the sons of Abraham were sojourners. They didn't own land. Jacob owned a small little part, but yet he was given a promise. Abraham was given a promise. Although he owned a little cave, he was promised that he would own a large stretch of land in Canaan. And so here again, God is reminding them of what he is going to do. And so we go to verse 4 or verse 5. And again, God says, moreover, I've heard the groaning of the people of Israel, whom the Egyptians hold as slaves, and I have remembered my covenant. Echoing the words from chapter 2, when God says that he heard the groanings of Israel and he remembered the covenant. Not the idea, again, remember, that when I say remember for us, it's not the same remember here. Our remember is remember something unless we forget it. God's remembering is not that he forgot the covenant. God's remembering is that he is acknowledging the covenant. He is taking action to do his will. He is taking action, to do his purpose, to accomplish his goal. And that's what we see here of God doing. And he says, I've heard the groaning of the people of Israel. I've heard the groaning of those that the Egyptians hold as slaves. And God says, I remember my covenant. And he knows verse 6, he says, go to the people of Israel. And again, tell them, say to the people of Israel, I am the Lord, and I will bring you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians. He says, know that I'm God. Know that I am that I am. Know that I am that God that has always been here, always will be here, a God that is not limited to social, a regional area, but a God that is the God of all things. And you see, that's one of the things we're going to see in these plagues, and what God's going to demonstrate is that God is the God of everything. And he said that's sort of a foreign concept to us when I say that, because we always know God to be a God of everything. In the ancient world, from the Egyptians and all the other people who had various gods, their gods weren't all powerful. They had a God whose whole job, whose whole being was about the sun. They had a God whose whole being was about the moon, a whole being, a God whose whole world or whose whole power was dealing with the Nile. They had these gods over certain areas. And those gods, if you acted in a way that was outside their realm, they couldn't do anything to you. They couldn't do anything about you. They couldn't help you, is what their thoughts were. But God says, God's showing them, I am the true God. And I'm not the God of Canaan, but I'm the God of the world, the God that can act even in Egypt. And that's what he says. Because he knows, I'll bring you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians. I will deliver you. I will redeem you with an outstretched arm. God says, I'm going to bring you in. I'm going to have my arm outstretched to my fullest power, to my fullest ability to bring you in, to return you. And then he says, I'm going to redeem you. I'm going to buy you back. I'm going to bring you back into your land, bring you back to land that your forefathers sojourned. They journeyed in, but now it's not going to be a sojourning land. It's going to be your land, a land for your possession. And then he says, I'm going to redeem you with an outstretched arm and with great acts of judgment, with great power, with great ability. Tonight we just got through just a few minutes ago finishing up with our kid class. And tonight we studied the Red Sea. We're studying about different animals. And they studied about a whale, of how great and how majestic and how it's the biggest animal of all. And we compared that to God. Of how God is the God of all things. And we studied this very thing. We studied Moses in Egypt. We talked about the 10 plagues and the parting of the Red Sea, because this is the part that proves that God is going to act with great acts. God is going to prove who he is. And again, as I said earlier, and we'll say this again, at the end of all the Exodus, when everything is said and done, there will be no question as to who is or who God is and what God can do. And so verse 7, he continues, I will take you to be my people, and I will be your God. You'll be my people, and I'll be your God. And we're going to have a relationship that no one else can have. Notice it says, you shall know that I am the Lord your God. And the idea there of know is not a mental acknowledgement. Because anybody, the Israelites easily could know God, know there is a God, acknowledge there is a God. The Egyptians could acknowledge that. But who is that God? No, the know here is a deep, intimate, sincere knowledge of knowing the person of God, what he's going to do, what he requires, and what he asks them to do. And God says, you're going to know me. You're going to know who I am, because I'm going to be your God. I'm going to be the God. Notice, I'm going to be the God who has brought you out of the burdens of the Egyptians. You see, there's not going to be any question when this is over. Again, there's no question when this is over of who delivered Israel. Was it Moses? Was it Aaron? No. They were just the workmen. The one behind it all, the one with all the power, is easily going to be seen that it is God. Then verse 8, I will take you out of the Egyptians, and I will bring you into the land that I swore to give to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I am going to give you the promise. You're going to see the fulfillment of that great promise. And he says, I will give it to you for a possession. It's going to be yours from now on. It's going to be where you dwell, where you live. And again, he ends by saying, I am the Lord. I am that I am. I am Yahweh. And so again, we see God emphatically telling Moses, go tell the people that I am. Go tell the people they're going to see something great. Go tell the people, and the underlying message here is, go tell the people not to lose heart. Go tell the people not to give up, because I'm coming. And when I come and when I act, great things are going to happen. But then verse 9. Verse 9, Moses spoke thus to the people of Israel. He gave them the encouraging words of God. That God said, don't give up. Don't think it's over. It's just beginning. But notice halfway through verse 9, they did not listen to Moses. They did not listen to Moses because of their broken spirit and harsh slavery. You see, verse 9 tells us that Pharaoh accomplished his goal. If you go back to chapter 5, Pharaoh tells his people Put them under a harsh burden, put them under the slavery so that they will not think about this God, that they won't even remember and acknowledge their God. They'll turn from their God and they'll just be our slaves. The people are so downhearted. The people are so discouraged that when Moses says God's going to act, God's going to do something great, just wait. They're downhearted. They wouldn't listen to him. They wouldn't acknowledge him. They let life get in the way. They didn't believe in God's sovereignty. They didn't believe in God's overpowering ability to act. But if it's going to be proven wrong, in the next chapter, we're going to see God begin to step forward and say, here I am. Pharaoh, you want a battle? Here's your battle. But before we can get there, we have to get through a few more steps. Because you know what happens next? Verse 10. So the Lord said to Moses, go in and tell Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to let the people of Israel go out of his land. Again, notice this is not a feast. This is not the leave. He says, you go tell Pharaoh to let my people go. Verse 12, but Moses said to the Lord, behold, the people of Israel have not listened to me. How then shall Pharaoh listen to me? For I am of uncircumcised lips. But the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron and gave them a charge about the people of Israel, about Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to bring the people of Israel out of the land of Egypt. Notice God tells Moses, okay, Moses, here's where it's going to come to, here's where the rubber's going to meet the road. You're going back to Pharaoh. You're going to go back to Pharaoh and tell Pharaoh who I am, what I'm requesting, what I want, what he's going to do. And you're going to go tell him to let this people go. But then he knows verse 12, Moses says to him, but God, the people of Israel won't listen to me. My own people won't listen. If your children, if your nation won't listen to me, what makes you think Pharaoh's going to listen? Notice he says, for I am of uncircumcised lips. I am of uneducated, can't think of a good word for this, of uncertain. Moses is again falling back on his excuses in chapter 4. Remember the last excuse he gave God was that I can't speak well. And so here again, he says, God, I can't go to Pharaoh. Pharaoh's not going to listen to me. Pharaoh's not going to listen to me. He's not going to believe me. He's not going to act in a way that shows that he acknowledges who you are. But he knows verse 13, God reestablishes this charge. He spoke to Moses and Aaron and gave them a charge about people of Israel and about Pharaoh, and about what they're going to do to bring about the people of Israel out of the land of Egypt. And then in verse 14, we get a very interesting break. A lot of Bible scholars have looked at this and tried to figure out, why does this break happen? Some think this happens here because of what happens in Genesis, that this is a break in the narrative to introduce a new section. And you may look at this and say, wait a minute, the section before this is Moses. The section after this is Moses. So what kind of break do we have here? Why do we have a genealogy? Our genealogy. Well, the point is that we're going to see a break in that Moses has tried a failed deliverance of Egypt, or of Israel from Egypt, to now, after this verse, we're going to see how successful Moses really is. Because from the first 6 chapters, we've seen Moses try to deliver Israel and try to deliver it his way and on his time. But God says, no, you got to wait on my time. And now this is going to be the shift. And this is what we see. We see an introduction to a little bit of a genealogy here. And we're going to talk about this. And I promise you, this gets it seems very confusing. But I've got a chart I'm going to show you to maybe help break this down a little bit. Verse 14. These are the heads of the fathers' houses. The son of Reuben, the firstborn of Israel. Hanok, Palu, Hezron, and Carmi. These are the clans of Reuben. The sons of Simeon, Jemuel, Jamin, Ohad, Jachin, Zohar, and Shaul, the son of a Canaanite woman. These are the clans of Simeon. Now, exactly why we're told about Reuben and Simeon, we're really not clear, because the focus is on the third group. And this is where this stops. The idea is probably that they have started the firstborn and go down, but they get the tribe of Levi. Levi's going to be where we're worried about. Notice verse 16. These are the names of the sons of Levi according to their generations. Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. The years of the life of Levi being 137. So here we're told about Levi. Levi had 3 sons, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. And Levi lives 137 years. Now, this genealogy is not complete. And we'll say that up front, because if you add up the times of the ages we're given, that just equals 407 years. But the problem with that timeline is that the years cannot overlap, and also for that year to work out right, then Levi has to be born in Egypt. And we know that's not true. Levi's older when he goes to Egypt and begins to have these children. So there's a couple of generations that are missing here. And this is typical in Bible times, in Bible writings. There are times when they skip a couple of generations if it's not known for anything significant, or if it's a bad family member, they're known to skip over people. So this is not a complete genealogy from Levi to Moses, but it covers the main basis. It says next, the sons of Gershom, Libni and Shimei are by their clans. The son of Kohath, Amram, Izhar, Hebron, and Uzziel. The years of life of Kohath being 133 years. The sons of Merari, Mahil and Mushi. These are the clans of Levi according to their generations. Amram took as his wife Jochebed, his father's sister, and she bore him Aaron and Moses. The years of life of Amram being 137 years. And the sons of Izhar, Korah, Nepheg, and Zikri. The sons of Uzziel, Mishael, Elizaphan, and Sithri. Aaron took his wife Elisheba, the daughter of Aminadab, and the sister of Nashon, and bore him Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. The sons of Korah, Asir, Elkanah, and Abisaph. These are the clans of Korahites. Eleazar, Aaron's son, took as his wife one of the daughters of Putiel, and she bore him Phinehas. These are the heads of the fathers' houses of the clans of Levites by their clans. Before we go any further into this, I want to notice one thing that's of significance. You notice verse 23, talking about Aaron. Aaron took as his wife Elisheba, the daughter of Aminadab and the sister of Nashon. If you look other places in the Bible, you will find, I believe it's in the lineage of David and also in the lineage of Christ, that there is a man in that lineage by the name of Aminadab, and his son is Nashon. So here's the interesting thing. The family of Moses is very closely related to the family of David and of Christ. So this is why Aminadab and Nashon is mentioned. The other interesting thing about this is, let me find one more interesting thing to think about, is Amram. Amram is Moses and Aaron's father. Again, you notice the 137 years, 133 years, 137. The other problem with that timeline is Levi has to be born in Egypt, and Amram has to die in Egypt. The problem with that is when we get into Numbers and Deuteronomy, we're going to see that Amram is still alive. Amram is still living and with the Israelites as they're in the line. So this is why I say there's a few people missing. Now, you may look at all that and say, okay, what does that mean? Well, here's a chart that should help us out a little bit. And we're going to try to break this down and look at some of these ideas before we move into the last section of this book or this chapter. Notice these are all the tribes of Levi. This is all the tribe of Levi. We have the tribe of Levi up here. The clans of Levi are Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. These are going to be some of the ones we're going to see later on when the Israelites are divided in their camps. These are the families that's going to be used. Gershon here, his 2 sons, Libni and Shimei. Again, there's probably more generations here than what's listed. There's probably more generations here. Most scholars think that in Egypt there was at least 4 generations. So most people think that there's probably 2 or 3 generations between Levi to Kohath. That Kohath was the father of Amram and so forth, but there were more people between Levi and Kohath. Also, the sons of this level here, you have these 3 sons of Gershon, Kohath, and Merari, and in this you have Jochebed, and Jochebed is a daughter of the tribe of Levi. Now, she's the daughter of Kohath. Now, here's the interesting thing. When you get down here to Kohath, we'll talk about Amram in just a minute. You have his other children divided up here. You see Hebron. We're not told about any of Hebron's descendants. Uzziel, he has Mishael, Ezaphim, and Sithri. We don't really know a lot about these. Izhar is told to us because of a certain group. You notice that there's Zikri and Nephig. We're not told a whole lot about these two, but we are told about Korah. A little later, the Korahites are going to be some people who are very significant in moving the tabernacle from place to place. Also, there's going to be some sons of Korah who are going to rebel against Moses in the story of Deuteronomy or Numbers. These are the ones who question Moses and Aaron's priesthood, or Aaron's priesthood, actually. And remember, God opens the earth and swallows them up. And these are his sons, his family. Now, what we're focused on is this over here. This line over here, because what this is this is telling us about the family lineage. But notice the family lineage here, the interest here is not on Moses, but Aaron. Why Aaron? Because Aaron is the high priest. This is the lineage the high priest is going to come from. Now, you'll notice something here. Here's something that's you may have missed if you're not paying attention. When we talk about Amram, Moses' father, he was married to his aunt. Jochebed is the sister to Kohath, his father's sister. So again, Amram is married to his aunt. Now, later in the law of Moses, this kind of marrying is forbidden when God gives the law, but apparently this was something that happened in Egypt from time to time. But Amram marries Jochebed, and Jochebed gives him 3 children. You'll notice these in parentheses are children that we know about but are not listed. We have Aaron. We're told about his wife Elisheba. We'll talk about him in just a minute. You notice Moses. We have his 2 sons, Gershom and Eleazar. Remember, those were the 2 that he had in the Midianite country. And then we have the 3rd member of this family is Miriam. Right now, we don't see Miriam very much outside the birth of Moses, chapter 2. When we get to chapter 15, Miriam's going to step up. We're going to see Miriam pop up in quite a few places. But the other one is Aaron. Aaron marries this Elisheba, and she is of the tribe of Judah. Again, and her descendants of Nahshon and Amminadab are both in the lineage of Christ and David. So that's why this is connected. That's why these names are mentioned, because these are prominent families. All right, from there, we talk about their children. You'll notice the first 2 children of Aaron are very familiar children with us, and Nadab and Abihu. Nadab and Abihu are the ones who are going to offer the strange fire on the altar, and God's going to send fire down and consume them. Then the high priest is going to fall after Aaron to the 3rd son of Eleazar. Then we're talking about Eleazar and his marriage to Putiel and his son Phinehas. Later on, we're going to see Phinehas take a stand when Israel tries to turn against God. Phinehas is going to be one of the few people who stands up for God and is very active in one of the plagues God sends out. I believe it's in Numbers 25. Then the last son of Aaron's is Ithamar. Nadab and Abihu are known for their sinfulness. Eleazar and Ithamar are known for their godliness. So it's very interesting how Aaron's family is divided in half. But this is a chart, sort of the family tree. I thought this would be an easier thing to look at and figure out these names, because I know I was reading these names and the way it jumps around and skips around a little bit, it's sort of hard to piece all these together. So this is the genealogy. And again, we asked the question, why is this here? Well, I believe this is here just like it is in Genesis to show there's a break in the narrative. There's a break in the story that's been before it and the story that's about to follow it. Example of this is the genealogy of Esau. Genealogy of Esau in Genesis breaks the story from talking about Isaac and Jacob to talking about Jacob's sons, and specifically the son of Joseph. So this is why the Genesis writer will do this. And again, if the Genesis writer is believed to be Moses, and I believe it is, then Moses was writing this book as well. So it makes sense why he would do it in the book of Exodus as well as the book of Genesis. So saying all that, and that may be more detailed than you want to go to, but saying all that, we get into the end of this chapter. We get to our last few verses. Maybe. So you notice again, these are the Aaron and the Moses to whom the Lord has said, bring out the people of Israel from the land of Egypt by their host. It was they who spoke to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, about bringing out the people of Israel from Egypt, this Moses and this Aaron. You notice the repetition here. The repetition over and over again about that this is the same Aaron and Moses, this is their descendants, and this is what they did. You'll notice there's a three-part, what's called a chiastic parallel here. And that's a little confusing to some of us, but basically an X. If you did it in letters, line A, B, it'd be A, B, C, B, A. And the B's are identical and the A's are identical. And here's what I mean. Let me get my pointer here. If you look, and this is biblical literature to emphasize a point. That's why I'm gonna bring this up. Notice, these are the Aaron and Moses to whom the Lord said. This Aaron and Moses is parallel down here. See, here's A. This phrase here is B. This phrase is C. This phrase is B. And this phrase is A. And again, that may be confusing, but I'll explain it in just a minute. Notice, Aaron and Moses, to whom the Lord said, this is Moses and Aaron, and this Aaron. The emphasis, this is the same people. Well, what did God say to them? Bring out the people of Israel from the land of Egypt by their host. These are the same people who spoke to Pharaoh about bringing out the people of Israel from Egypt. And what did the middle part? The middle part is they spoke to Pharaoh. And God wants to emphasize that this is what Moses and Aaron, this is their mission. This is their goal. And their goal is by God. And their goal is to bring the people out of Egypt. And they're going to bring the people out by their hosts. They're going to bring them all out at one time, not going to sneak them out little by little. They're all going to leave with one big force. And it is those who spoke to Pharaoh. They're the ones who went to Pharaoh and told him to let the people go. And they're the ones responsible for leading God's charge in bringing his people out of the land of Egypt. And then we're going to see, one more. Now we're going to see the last two verses of this chapter, three verses of this chapter. And then you notice on the day then the Lord spoke to Moses in the land of Egypt. And the Lord said to Moses, I am the Lord. Tell Pharaoh, king of Egypt, all that I say to you. But Moses said to the Lord, behold, I am of uncircumcised lips. How will Pharaoh listen to me? So again, God speaks to Moses again this same day, or if it's a repeat, or if it's a repeat, or if it's a new day, we really don't know. But again, God tells Moses, this is what you're going to do, Moses. Go tell him that I am the Lord, I am Yahweh. And go tell Pharaoh everything that I've told you, everything I'm going to tell you, everything I say, you're going to go repeat it to Pharaoh. You'll be my spokesman. You're going to deliver this people. But then again, notice verse 30. Verse 30, we end this chapter just like we ended chapter 5 on a sad note, on a depressed note, if you will. Where Moses again says, behold, I'm of uncircumcised lips. Behold, I'm not a talented speaker. I'm not a very influential man. I'm not very skilled at what I do. God, how will Pharaoh listen to me? God, how will Pharaoh listen? He's already said earlier, God, the Israelites didn't listen to me. My own people, the people I promised to deliver, do not obey, do not believe me. They don't listen to me. What's going to make Pharaoh listen to me? In chapter 7, we're going to see the answer to that question. In chapter 7, next week, we're going to see God step forward. And God say, Moses, here's why Pharaoh's going to listen to you. Because Moses is going to do those miracles God already given. And then in chapter 7, I believe it is, we're going to see the 10 plagues start. God tells Moses, Pharaoh's going to believe you. Pharaoh's going to listen to you. Not because of who you are, not because of how good you speak, how well you act, or any of that thing. Pharaoh is going to listen to you because he's going to see the power behind you. And that power is the power of Yahweh, the power of the God that is. Very interesting to me to notice this chapter that Pharaoh, that the Egyptians or the Israelites are depressed. The Israelites are down and out. They don't want to believe Moses anymore. They listened to Moses once and now caused heartache. Now they want to give up on the message. Imagine how rough that must be. I thought about that as I was studying, getting ready for this lesson. How terrible and oppressive that must be that you give up all hope, that you give up all hope of seeing a bright future, that you just resign yourself to being slaves. And that reaction must have been so severe that Moses himself says, God, why did you send me? God, why am I here? God, I told you this wasn't going to work. Why did you make me come? But the great thing about this story is God doesn't depend on humans. God doesn't depend on man saying, I'll listen to you, God, in my time. But God says, no, I'm going to show you. I'm going to reveal to you the truth you need to know. And I'm going to keep my promise. And my promise is to redeem you, to save you, to bring you back to your people, to your land, And that's what we can learn from this. We can learn that God that talked to Moses is the same God that talks to us today through his word. The same God who promises to redeem us, to make us whole, to save us if we'll stay firm. There may be times in this world where it looks like Pharaoh's winning, it looks like Satan's winning, it looks like evil is winning, and there's no hope. But we can know that there is a God who is that great I am, the I am that I am, that will keep his promises, that will keep his word, that will be faithful in everything he says and does, if we'll simply follow him, if we'll simply obey him. I appreciate you joining us here tonight. It's 7:35, so we're going to stop. I appreciate you joining us in Exodus 6. Next week, we're going to study Exodus 7, Lord willing, and I appreciate you being here. We hope that you can join us. Remember, if you'd like to, on Sunday morning, we meet at 10 a.m. For those who are not part of part of the congregation here, we meet every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. We'd love to have you then. We also have this class every Wednesday night, and we have our FBI class every Tuesday night. We'd love to have you be a part of any of those classes you want to. So for tonight, we appreciate you being here. I hope this lesson has blessed you. I hope that you and your family is doing well. And we will see you all hopefully next Sunday, or see you Sunday, if not next Wednesday night. Again, thank you for being here, and we are signing off.